Hey, what do you say? This video topic is gonna make some people upset, but it's always like that when we go over the Toronto Maple Leafs. So today we're talking about what Elliotte Friedman said on a recent episode, or at least the most recent episode of the 31 Thoughts podcast. Now, first off, before we even get into this, I want to say I'm so happy that everything is finally coming back because we now finally actually have episodes of the 31 Thoughts podcast to go over and actually analyze. These quotes are coming here straight from the source, straight from the man himself, and I just absolutely love what we're talking about here. So, without further ado, because we're bringing back everything to how it was before the pandemic, before all this stuff stopped up with the bubble and all that, we're going over onto NHL Watcher's Twitter account because this beautiful Twitter account over here goes over and summarizes what we have to say, and it's better for me to screenshot it and put it on the screen instead of just reading it off, so you actually know where I'm coming from here with this information. So, this is what Elliotte Friedman said on the recent episode of the 31 Thoughts podcast. If the Toronto Maple Leafs don't have a good year this year, there are going to be changes. And Kyle Dubas, he wanted to hang on to the Big Four. Matthews is not getting traded. Tavares is not getting traded. If they ever have to do it, it's one of the two guys that are left. And of course, it doesn't say it here in the tweet, but you know who we're talking about. We're talking about William Nylander and Mitch Marner. So the idea we're talking about here in the video pretty much is if the Toronto Maple Leafs go out there in 2021 and they disappoint, will we see an inevitable, and I say inevitable, that's the key word right here, inevitable trade of either Nylander or Marner? Tavares or Matthews, none of these guys, now you're not trading any of these guys. But when it comes to the two wingers, one of them who is overpaid, the other who is on a cheap value contract, is a move yet to be made. This is also what Friedman says over here, continued on the tweet. This group knows if they don't do something this year, big changes are coming. They know it. So I think they'll be determined. And NHL Watcher does a little bit of a courtesy, and he says right here, Marner's no-move clause doesn't kick in until 2023-2024, if you were curious. So, what we're insinuating here is that there's actually free reign. Let's go over onto the cap-friendly page of the Toronto Maple Leafs and take a look at who is indeed on this roster. William Nylander has a contract that at the moment also does not have a no-move or an NTC. Nylander, if you go over to his contract, it doesn't kick in until 2023-2024. From now until then, hey, he's free game. He can get traded whenever Kyle Dubas wants him to. Same could be said about that Mitch Marner over there, who has that one extra year on his contract. And so, if we want to go over how exactly this could work, we have to examine what the worst case scenario is for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Now, the worst case scenario absolutely would be that all the cool stuff, the shiny new toys they got over the offseason, yeah, doesn't work. Sorry, Joe Thornton playing with Matthews and Marner, nah, doesn't work out. Thornton's slow, he can't get to the front of the net anymore. Matthews and Marner have to do all the heavy lifting. It's pretty much just 2-on-3 out there for the forward compositions. You have that TJ Brody on your blue line. Hey, he doesn't work like that Tyson Barrie didn't work last year too. The worst case scenario is Freddie Anderson in his contract year completely shows off why he does not deserve to return, and he has the worst performance he has had in the Toronto system thus far. Meanwhile, Jack Campbell's in the back of the net there. He's okay, but he's not as good as you need him to be to carry this team into a top postseason spot. The Toronto Maple Leafs finish 5th in the Canadian division. The Montreal Canadiens, Canucks, Flames, and Oilers all finish on top of them. And the Leafs are out of the playoffs again. Well, yeah, they're out of the playoffs again, right? They didn't make it last year. They made the return to play, but they got eliminated in the pre-playoff round. Yeah, they didn't make the playoffs last year. They don't make it again this year. That's the worst case scenario. All of a sudden, it's like, okay, what does this team need to do? Kyle Dubas, go out there and shake this team up. Who's getting traded first? Is it Nylander or is it Marner? And this is probably the most difficult discussion to have because no doubt, The easier contract to trade is William Nylander, and I don't think anybody needs any explanation for that. Sure, Mitch Marner is great. The guy had 60-something points in 59 games. He was on pace. Let's do the math right here. 67 divided by 59, multiplied by 82, 93-point pace. He had 94 points the previous year in 82 games played. William Nylander, on the other hand, had a lower production amount. 59 points, 68 games played. But the problem here is quite obvious. Everybody kind of knows what the problem is over here. The contracts, they're so vastly different. William Nylander is making a pretty okay 6.9 AAV on the cap until 2024. For a guy who was just under a point per game, let's do the math here. 59 points divided by 68 games multiplied by 82 total is on pace for 71 points. Hey, 70 points out of a guy who is only 24 years old getting paid 6.9 for the next 4 seasons? That's not bad. But Mitch Marner, on the other hand, is one of the top-paid wingers in the entire NHL. And you can debate whether or not a 20-point difference in production is enough to justify the 10-point-something million dollar AAV cap hit he has. Now, we get that Marner knows how to PK as well. He's a penalty killer. They play him over there. He's good at shutting things down on the 5-on-4 against chances. But in an environment with the flat cap, if Kyle Dubas and his team don't show up, and if we head into next season where Dubas is like, man, we need to make a change, we're not trading Matthews or Tavares, we're going to keep Nylander, how the heck are you going to trade Marner? Who's going to take on that contract? Even with salary retained, the whole drama behind this player, it's going to make him so difficult to move. That's why we said that Nylander would definitely be the easier contract to move out, but it's also the much more valuable contract to have on your team, so the incentive to move that contract doesn't exist in the same magnitude. So, the Maple Leafs are kind of really betting on themselves here, and I get that this whole video idea is just off of a hypothetical. It's just Elliotte Friedman saying, if this happens, if the Leafs don't show up, then we will see a trade. Probably, at least. He's not guaranteeing anything, but he's saying it's probably going to go down that way. And I think it's a very interesting possibility to at least consider because, hey, even though I've been saying this entire time, Toronto's probably going to finish top 2 in this Canadian North Division. What even is our sponsor? Is it Honda? I completely forgot. This Canadian division is tight. Like, any one of these top 6 teams could realistically take the top spot, and you could make a good debate for any of them. It's just kind of Ottawa that's kind of trailing behind there, and we kind of know why. It's just unfortunate because Ottawa got so much better as well. To be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if Ottawa did not finish last. It's just I'm very heavily predicting them to finish last, but all these other teams, you know, Winnipeg, Calgary, Edmonton, Vancouver, Montreal, they all, in some shape or another, got better. So, for Toronto to actually have their own improvements too, it puts them in a position where they really just need to go for it. If there's any room for doubt, any room for debate, any room for uncertainty, hey, all the other teams in Canada are going to overtake you, and I think that philosophy applies to every other team as well. So, if you're sticking around to the end here, thank you so much for hanging out with us. Comment down in the comments below. Oh man, what should we do? Let's do Kings and Queens, because, yeah, I'm thinking about Mitch Marner and the London Knights royalty, Kings and Queens, you know, all the medieval stuff. Let's talk about Kings and Queens in the comments if you made it to the end of this video for a chance to be featured in the next Toronto Maple Leafs video whenever that will be posted. But talk to me in the comments as well. What do you think about this idea? Would you trade one of Marner or Nylander if the Leafs suck next year? Is it not even those guys? Do you go straight up, hey, screw it, no more Tavares, we're getting rid of that guy? Do you do the unpaved route that Elliotte Friedman says will not be explored in his little piece on the 31 Thoughts podcast? Also, link in the description as always to that episode. It's the most recent one, so you shouldn't have any difficulties finding it. But yeah, as always, comment down below in the comments, Kings and Queens, as well as your thoughts on the topic. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.